So Dave, we're on the A65 on our way up to the lakes. How are you feeling?
Good, yeah, feeling nice. The sun's out. We're on our way for a big challenge this weekend. But no, I've slept all right at the Gormans. The van is packed. We're all ready.
Preparations that have been going on for how long?
Oh, yeah. Well, for my attempt at doing Bob Graham, years. I think I've thought about doing it for years. Like driving up nearly every weekend during the summer of maybe starting 10 years ago and helping people get through their Bob Grahams. Supporting them, so driving up after work on a Friday and setting off at midnight. Largely I would do the first leg of it with them, the first 2 legs, and then be asleep all day on the Saturday while they were still going and see them finish. But now it's sort of my turn to...
It's you.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to show up for you. So tell us what the Bob Graham is and what you're going to be facing in about 12 hours time.
Yeah. The Bob Graham is a Lake District 24-hour challenge, or covering 42, or ascending and descending 42 of the Lakeland peaks. Starts in Keswick and finishes in Keswick at Moot Hall. You got to tap the door and off you go, and then hit the door and you get back. So yeah, you got 24 hours to do it. Traditionally you set off at midnight, which we're doing, and you go clockwise. Some people go anti-clockwise, which is the Graham Bob, but we're not doing that. And it covers about 70 miles, about 30,000 feet of ascent. So it's the sort of equivalent of, they call it the equivalent English Everest. So it's the same amount of feet in ascent as Everest.
So after this you could run up and down Everest like
exactly.
Like Kilian Jornet.
Yeah.
Who also happens to hold the record for the Bob Graham.
Yeah, so broke that last year, long-standing record from Billy Bland years ago. Farmer, Borrowdale Fellner farming legend. And Kilian Jornet smashed that record by an hour last year, which is incredible, you know. People get around and manage to get around in under 24 hours, and it's a big achievement, but to do it in under.
So he did it in effectively half the allotted time.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
And how do you, because this is, well, it's interesting to me, but I think it's interesting to a lot of people, how do you prepare for this sort of event? I mean, you've been preparing for years, obviously, in training and racing and all that kind of stuff. But how do you prepare specifically for this sort of race?
So for the amount of time on your feet, I don't think there's much you can do apart from being on your feet more often. You know, walking, running,
right?
Doing a few miles of running. My running training, I'll never do more than 40-50 miles a week at a peak, really. I know some people can do 80 to 100 miles of running a week, but I've never found I can either have the time to do that, or my body sort of has not allowed me to do it. So 40-50 miles of running, some of it short and sharp and fast, just to keep the legs quick. I don't have many big hills around where I live down in Oxfordshire, so I spend a bit of time on the stepper machine in the gym, just getting a few. You know, you can climb Scarfell at lunchtime, 35 minute on the stepper.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. And it's sort of this broader point, isn't it? How do you can't always access the thing that you specifically need to train, but you can improvise and do something close to it with what you've got around you. So even if you didn't have that, you could run up and down some stairs.
Yeah, people have trained for their Bob Graham running up and down multi-storey car parks in London. So it is possible, yeah. Or you just do lunges off your stairs at home for 30 minutes.
Yeah. I remember when I was training for climbing Mont Blanc, and I used to go down to the. Obviously, there's not much around London for climbing mountains, and I used to go to the gym with a rucksack, and I used to put 2 20-kilo rings in the bag, 20-kilo weights in the bag, and get on the treadmill on the steepest incline for 3 hours at a time.
3 hours.
And I just used to do that on a Saturday and a Sunday. But again, it was. I knew I'd be carrying a heavy pack, and I knew it was going to be steep, and I was going to be obviously hiking up a long period of time, and it got me somewhere close to what that might feel like.
Nice.
So that seems to be good.
So if you can't get to the hills, ultimately that's the best place to come and do training. I've only ever been able to get up to do races or a few fell running meets and longer distance stuff, but you got to improvise and bit of biking, and then it's largely been about diet and nutrition for getting the fuel right and sort of weight, body composition right. And that seems to have gone pretty well for this, hopefully. Feeling pretty good, feeling pretty lean.
And I think what is hard for a lot of people to understand that don't do necessarily events like that is that the nutrition before and after can vary quite wildly from the nutrition during. Because the nutrition during becomes a really personal thing that is not necessarily 100% focused on health. It's focused on giving you what you need in the format you need it to get through the toil that you've got to get through. And so we've thought about it in a kind of hierarchy, haven't we? Which is at the top of the hierarchy, the number one priority is calories. You need calories in your body, because the likelihood is you're going to be burning way more calories than you can consume. So the number one objective is calories. Number two is probably carbohydrates. You're going to be doing a lot of anaerobic work throughout this, particularly up the hills. So you need to keep restocking with carbohydrate. And third is probably palatability, the pleasure that you'll get out of that particular food at a certain point in time. Both so you can eat more of it, and for that psychological boost that you might need. So people might be surprised about some of the stuff we've got on the menu, like bacon and egg sandwiches in a white bap, for example. Now, would we recommend that to in normal life? No, of course not. I mean, the bacon and eggs, but certainly not the white bap. But remember what white bread is. It's basically pure starch, and starch is glucose. And glucose is the primary energy molecule that you need, or the primary fuel source that you need to make energy. And so when you being that active, as long as you're tolerant of the stuff that's in bread like gluten, which you are, it can be a good kind of high energy wrapper for the more nutrient dense foods that are in there. And I suppose nutrient density then is probably number 4 in that list. That it's important to get nutrients, but it's more important that those nutrients come before and after, and during we focus on the other things from a fueling point of view.
So what I'm looking forward to is rice pudding and different flavours. Have we got any different flavours in the rice pudding?
We're going to do just a plain. It's going to be pudding rice made with coconut milk. So that's the base of both of them. Coconut milk, super high fat. So you've got the good energy boost there, and obviously rice is again like white bread, basically pure starch, pure glucose. So we've got a good mix of energy substrates there. So then 2 versions we'll do, probably a plain one with honey, and then one with orange and cocoa. Nice. And honey. So it'll be sweet and nice and rewarding and pleasurable. And then again we've got some really nutritious stuff in there. There'll be an oxtail stew at some point with some sweet potato wedges. We've got the kind of whole food energy boosts like dates with nut butter, dates with coconut oil, those kind of things. But we've also got some junky stuff.
Yeah.
Because at some point in that race, particularly towards the end, that's what you're going to need. We've got some crisps in there.
Yeah.
We've even got some little bottles of Coke in there. We've got some ice cream potentially as we get close to the end. When you've run 60 odd miles through the night, like it or not, they're some of the things that are going to get you through that last bit. So you see that difference between fuel for performance and fuel for health. Of course, there's a massive overlap between those two most of the time, but there are some occasions where you're absolutely on the edge in an extreme situation where it's probably the only situation where very calorie dense, very palatable, high energy junk food can be relevant.
Yeah, and usually on these events where I've done them before, or people have done them before, there's a lot of sweets, there's a lot of sugary stuff, which is fine. So flat Coke has worked before, and Ironman events always do that. But it's nice to have whole fruit, satsumas, melon, grapes, bananas, apples. A nice juicy apple is really satiating for a long period of time as well. So it keeps you full. Your brain's not always thinking of the next bit of food then, which I've found in the past that you eat an apple and it keeps you full for about an hour.
Yeah. And what about we've got the menu and the truck is literally full to the brim with food, because not only we've got to feed Dave, we've got to feed the other runners, and me, of course. I'll be needing food, driving a car around. And what about sleep? How's your sleep been? How have you felt that's impacted you in the run up to this?
I was just woke up this morning at 7ish, and then thought, by the time it's 7 again, I'll have been up. That'll be 24 hours, and I've still got another 12 hours, 10 hours to go. So you're actually up for more like 30 hours more.
At least. Probably you'll be up for 36 hours, I reckon, by the time you get to bed.
So that's a bit of a. We see that as a challenge, a bit of an exciting, what's going to happen to my body and my mind maybe during that time. There'll probably be some highs and lows with that. Sleep building up. Been trying to make sure I have going to bed early and wearing the blue light Swanee glasses before going to bed, 2 hours before getting to bed, before 10 o'clock, reading a bit of fiction, then being disturbed by Juliet turning on plugs and unplugging night lights for the kids, spraying things on a pillow that help her go to sleep but wake me up.
and what, because we've talked about this before, this idea that people, when they're training for an event where they're going to run through the night or miss multiple nights sleep, there's a school of thought that, well, I'm going to train myself to not need as much sleep. I'm going to get 4 hours a night in the 2 months before because I'll get used to it. But you don't think that?
No, I think if anything, you want to be getting more sleep to get you in the best state of health, so that you then can destroy yourself. It's all going to cause damage, isn't it, by not sleeping for a period of time and sleep deprivation. But if you're already doing that in training, then you're doing harm to yourself before you need to. And you should be just, because you're then going to reach for the wrong foods if you're not sleeping as much. You're going to recover on the wrong foods in your training. Your body's going to, it conserves fat, doesn't it, when you're not sleeping, or you're not going to get to the right body composition.
It makes you eat more.
Yeah.
when you don't get as much sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes you reach for higher calorie
Yeah.
junk food as well.
Yeah. And if you're limiting your sleep, probably limiting your REM sleep, your sort of dreaming sleep. And I was thinking about this, that when people are in REM sleep, where you're totally floppy, aren't you? So you've got no muscle tone, you're just sort of paralysed. And is that when our muscles then are recovering and getting the rest they need to help us recover?
There'll be some happens there. Mostly tissue regeneration is done during deep non-REM sleep.
Yeah.
But there'll be, I'm sure there's some in a little bit in REM sleep. But yeah, mainly it's in non-REM.
Yeah.
Either way, getting enough sleep is crucial to recovering from the kind of amount of training that you'll have to do in the run up to this sort of thing. But going back to that, the idea of adapting to having less sleep, there is, if you think about from an evolutionary point of view, we're well adapted to not getting enough food. So there's all sorts of physiological adaptations that happen in response to having less calories than we need, so we can cope with that for extended periods of time. There's no physiological mechanism for coping with or adapting to getting less sleep than we need, because it was just never a problem evolutionary.
No.
We never went for periods of time without getting enough sleep. It just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So there's no need to have any physiological adaptations to it. So this idea that you can get used to having less sleep and therefore perform better on less sleep is just not true.
No.
Which you've certainly found.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to try and have a nap this afternoon, and then maybe a lie down after some dinner. But
and we've got all the families in tow for support.
Yeah.
Dave's family's is coming. My family's here, and I guess there'll be a bunch of members at the running and climbing club that will be in support.
Yeah, there's probably about, I counted maybe 40 or 50 in total who will be in support and involved and enjoying the day. And it's been nice coming up with the plan to provide them with a good day out as well. And it's basically a party on the hill with loads of food at each stop for everybody. And so yeah, looking forward to that, and a big barrel of ale for everyone back at the club for them to enjoy. Not sure I will.
You'll be asleep by then.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So we're in between on our way out of Yorkshire and in towards Cumbria now. So we'll report back when we get a bit closer.
Yeah, cool. Ciao.